Hello, and welcome to Raising Mommy, a podcast sanctuary where moms can come to listen, share, learn, and grow. I am your host, Kimberly Tyson, vegan blogger for eatplantsforlife.com, wife and mom of two. Here in the studio, I am joined by Karen Stein of Go Healthy with Karen. Go Healthy with Karen offers a personalized approach to the removal of chemicals and toxins from different segments of your life. Thank you for being a guest on our show today.
Thank you for having me.
I'll have to tell you that Daniel, he works behind the scenes for our podcast shows. He asked me to give him a wish list for guests, and you were at the top of my list. So I'm happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So today we're going to dive into our segment called Real Chat. The name says it all. Real Chat is a judgment-free discussion where not only moms share candid experiences on a particular subject, but professionals provide an expert description of, advice on, and resources for the Real Chat topic of the day. Today's title is The Detox Makeover. So you are a CHC and a CPHC, correct?
Correct.
And what certification is that?
So the CHC is a certified health coach.
Okay.
The CPHC is a certified pregnancy health coach.
Okay.
So I went back and got the pregnancy certification to not only help people trying to reverse issues and disease, but hopefully to have happy, healthy children and babies that would stave off disease as well.
Okay. So describe you and your husband's health issues prior to embarking on your journey.
So my husband had 5 different kinds of rare cancers, starting in his 20s. And when I met him, he had been cancer-free for 17 years, but when we got engaged, he was diagnosed with another cancer. Mm-hmm. And then he was diagnosed again. I had 2 very small children at the time, mm-hmm. and so I had been brought up, as I like to say, healthy-ish, so I was aware of, different, maybe healthier foods and things, mm-hmm. And back at the time, there was not a lot of healthy products out there. So I tried to talk to all the professional resources that I could and do the research that I could to find things that were healthy for him. Mm-hmm. Medically, we had kind of come to the end of that road, what they could offer. And so I wanted to find something else to help him. Mm-hmm. And that was when I came upon all of looking at the environment. And not just the food that we were eating, which is important, and exercise and things like that, but the environment that we were living in. Mm-hmm. Also had my kids were really small at this point, and I didn't want them to know that anything was wrong with him. So it was an incredibly stressful time dealing with what was going on, raising my 2 little girls and acting as if everything was normal every single day. And I was absolutely exhausted. And so for myself, I started to feel, when he got better, I started to not feel well. And that was another long journey, kind of almost self-diagnosing myself to find out what was wrong, which was Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disease of the thyroid. Mm-hmm. And again, not wanting to go down just only the mainstream medical path with that. I did not want to have my thyroid removed or anything like that. So I looked into alternatives as well for myself, being environmental, being diet, and stress also playing a huge part in that. And really felt like that was life-changing for me, that mm-hmm. I was able to become asymptomatic naturally. I'm not on any synthetic thyroid, and the things that I do have just made me feel like a whole different person. And so I want to kind of take all that information and pass it on to other people, not only that are, as I say, not only once you don't feel well, but hopefully how important it is to get these chemicals and things out of your food and out of your environment so that you can stay healthy and your body can work as it's supposed to.
Yeah, because a lot of people think that it's just about exercise and diet. And you are saying that it's also the things we inhale and use in our everyday household cleaning use.
Right, that you actually absorb through your skin into your bloodstream. And so it's about your chemical body burden, and that's the amount of chemicals that are in your body at any one moment in time. There can be up to 700 chemicals in your body, but that's changing, and it's about the accumulation of chemicals, not any one exposure. And your body's a filtering system. Your body can handle and filter out chemicals that we're exposed to everywhere, every day. But it's when that burden gets too high and your filter system can't work, that your body is not working as it's intended. That's where disease and illness come in. So if you address the overall chemical body burden, which is so much more than just food, and chemicals that are in our food as well, and in the packaging of the food, but that are all through our entire lives in personal care products and cleaning products and the sheets we're sleeping on and the environment in our home that we live in our couch and in our flooring. And that sounds really scary and overwhelming. And I'm not saying that everybody goes and changes every single thing in their life, but when you realize how many different things that are affecting you that add to this body burden, when you make just certain changes in so many, and there's so many different areas that you'd never think about that you could change things that really make a big difference. And those are the easy ones. And what's hard is to change your diet or to feel denied or to make yourself go work out every day. And of course, that's really important. But if you look at the whole picture and you're not attacking the problem from just one aspect, that's just diet or just exercise, now it's all about balance, I say, and it takes, some of the strain off of that, where you can have a little more freedom with maybe what you're doing because you're taking care of other areas of your life and making them healthier.
So how did Go Healthy with Karen come about?
So basically, I was so passionate about all of this and just telling everybody what I was doing, and everybody was always asking me. I was in the corporate world, and I was actually started out as a lighting designer, and people were always asking me advice and where did you get that and what are you eating and what are you doing, that I love to tell them about this. And so I realized that I wanted to go back and become get a certification to have that. But then when I went back to school, I realized that the curriculum was all based mainly on the nutrition and on exercise. And they didn't really address the rest of the things that I had learned. And so, again, not saying that that's not important, but I thought that I could put together a program that would be encompassing the whole lifestyle, as I call it, lifestyle detox makeover, because that's really what you're doing, is like detoxing your whole life. And so the certification led me to change careers and realize that, I could build a business and hopefully try to reach a lot of people, getting this information out there and at the time that I did really wasn't out there at all. And now, there's more and more out there and online and things, but that also makes it more confusing for people.
There's a lot.
And so, my point is to make it easy and simple, people not to feel overwhelmed, and not everything is healthy just because you think it is or you bought it in a natural food store, and not everything within one line is good for you. But then beyond that too, there's many things that are healthy and they really don't work. Or they're really expensive.
Right.
And so it's kind of like that balance of what I've learned over 20 years of what's economical, what works really well, and what's healthy for you.
So when you started to make the changes, I guess your children were little. So I guess it was probably easier for them to accept the changes because this is how what's going on in the household. And your husband, he was also on board as far as the dietary changes and the chemicals and all of that.
Well, in my house, they were on board because I was the one who did all the cooking.
Right.
So if they wanted to eat, they had to be on board. But yes, he really wanted to do anything he could do, but he probably wouldn't have initiated that himself if it didn't come from me. And the kids were little, so they were raised, doing these different things, which I now they're both in college, and I can see that does, even though they wouldn't admit it and they wouldn't want me to know that, it does carry through into their lives. And it's fun to see them influencing their friends as well, and kind of sharing the things that they know. People are interested when something's different or unique, and especially the millennials, I think, are very interested in all this, and I do see that from a lot of their friends.
So how did you handle situations like, when there were parties, like kid parties, and there were unhealthy things at parties? Did you just say, okay, this is just one party? At home I feed you 90% of your meals, so we're getting healthy meals then. Because I feel like that way with grandparents, or when they go to parties and I know that my daughter is going to have artificial flavors, which have a negative effect on her because she's ADHD. I find it hard to let her have those things because I can see how it affects her. So what would you say to a mom that has to deal with that, as far as the grandparents who feed them things that probably sometimes aren't healthy, or when they go to parties or have classroom parties and things like that where they're exposed to those things?
Yes, that's absolutely going to happen. And again, you don't want to be stressed. It's about balance, and you can't control everything, but you can control your home environment. If you can control the majority of what they're eating, then if they do have something here and there, it's okay. They're going to be able to handle it. I mean, nobody can live in a bubble. Nobody can live in a perfect world. The funny stories were, for my kids, that did happen too. And I remember them coming home, and having had things that they never had. They had a Twinkie or something, and they were like, what is this? And so it was funny, but it's okay.
Okay. Yeah, I actually had an incident where my daughter came home. Well, before she got home, she sent me a picture of toasted strudel. She had it at my mom's house. She said, why have we never had this? This is awesome. And she's like, I'm a kid. I mean, these are the things that we need to have. And I had to go through this whole conversation with her about, okay, that's okay when you go to grandma's house, but when you're at home, this is how we eat. That could be a special treat that you have just with grandma.
That's
right. So I had a similar issue with that.
And aside from an allergy or, some medical issue where you had to be really, really careful, I mean, I remember a funny story because I think the most unhealthy thing in a restaurant is the kids menu. And I don't know why we reserve the unhealthiest of foods to feed our children when we want them to grow up and be healthy. And so I never used the kids menus with my kids, and I always encourage them to order whatever they wanted and to try different things, or to at least try, our foods. And so they really did grow up eating things that most other kids didn't. And when I would go to a restaurant and they were tiny, and my daughter would order an artichoke, or one would order, shrimp, or whatever it was that they ordered, the waiter would look at me, thinking that they were not serious. And I'm like, no, they really do want that. But the funniest story happened is that my daughter used to love hearts of palm.
Yep.
And I would cut those up in strips, and I made a honey mustard dipping sauce myself, and she would take that to school. And I had a phone call from another parent that asked me what the white things that my daughter was eating were, because she had traded her hearts of palm for somebody else's dessert, whatever unhealthy dessert, and they went home and told their parents, and they wanted that.
Wow.
And so I thought that was really interesting, and it just shows you that if you do let kids try different foods, they'll probably like, not everything, but they'll like some of it.
Yeah. I had a similar situation too. Like, my kids aren't vegan, but I do try to share my recipes, and they'll eat them. But if I wasn't vegan and I wasn't trying all these different vegetables, they never would try it.
Absolutely.
So there's things like Brussels sprouts and cauliflower. They actually like those things, and I don't think that they would have tried them unless, I tried to put them into their diet with my diet. So tell me more about your Detox Makeover, what you offer. You have what is called a detox for pregnancy, and you have one for babies. Explain those two.
Yeah. So I have them in many categories, which is nutrition and products, household, which is everything from water filtration to your sheets, where you're sleeping a third of your life on cotton, which is one of the most heavily sprayed crops, and towels, things that you again, you may not think about, and things that don't have to be expensive or you don't have to run out and replace right away. But when you are ready to make that purchase, I give you the information and the resources to think about that. All of those things really come back into the baby and the child, or the pregnancy makeover. My health coach certification in pregnancy is from Dr. William Sears. So he's a pretty well-known pediatrician who's written a lot of books. That there's 3 stages. I actually have books that are only available through his health coaches, and it's kind of in the stages of preparing for pregnancy, and then being healthy during pregnancy, and then taking care of mom and postpartum. So again, I use all that information. A lot of that is also nutritional in nature, as I said before, and then combine it with my own environmental programs. And so it's going to run the gamut of, again, like trying to think of the things that people don't think about. So what is the bedding that the babies are sleeping on, and what clothes are they wearing? What products are you using on their skin? And, how are you bathing them and feeding them? And what are they drinking out of? If they're drinking out of a bottle or a sippy cup, and what's that made of? And
pacifiers.
So pacifiers, all these different things. And that just leads into plastics and so many other conversations. But every single thing, kind of like I always say, I dive deep in a topic. It may just seem like it's one thing. It's just a pacifier. It's just a toy, or it's just a water bottle. But there's all different considerations and levels of those things. And so I make it really easy. I break it down, not only because I want people to be able to go out on their own and know how to make good decisions, how to learn to label read, which I call it like label reading 101, because it's very, very important to know what's in what you're purchasing and to do your own research. But I provide a report. It's a custom report to each person who does a makeover. And so it gives them those tools, and it explains what chemicals are in things that are bad for us and what they do. Recommendations. I don't sell any products, but recommendations of what products, and many choices, and in a kind of a good, better, best format. So whatever fits their budget that they can access, or things that they like. But that's where all my research comes in, kind of making it easy for them, because the things that I'm recommending, I know really work. I've used them myself. And when they're ready to do that, they can go out and implement. They can refer back to the report. So I also do consultations and private consultations, but I put these programs together with the report to kind of make it easy, kind of like a one-stop thing for people to now do it on their own. And then, of course, if there's other things that they want to work on down the road or have questions, I'm always available.
So it sounds like a really good plan for someone who is thinking about starting a family, to start with the detoxing there, because once you get pregnant, you're inhaling all of this stuff. You want the proper diet, exercise. So it sounds like a good program too for someone who's starting out or thinking about having kids.
That's absolutely true. And studies have shown that there's been up to 287 chemicals in the umbilical cord.
Wow.
And so you don't realize how what you're, as the mom or the preparing for pregnancy, prospective mom, are doing will pass through, and the environment that your baby's growing in, it's very, very important. Just as foods pass through, and things that you drink and things that you eat, so do all these chemicals. So having the healthy environment for you to start, and then bringing the baby into a healthier environment, is only going to benefit them so much, because, again, babies are born usually healthy, hopefully, but they can handle, just as we can, some things in their environment. But by lowering that burden for them, it just allows them to be healthy, their immune system to form healthy, and take that into childhood and on into adulthood. So I think it is a really, really important thing. I've also been creating something that I think is really helpful, where I help with natural registries or detox registries, and going to be adding these programs to my website soon, because if you're doing a baby registry, or even if you're getting married and you're doing your bridal registry, especially with that, you're kind of registering to create a whole home.
Right.
And for all the products, because you don't realize that even something like a toaster oven, there's nonstick finishes within most of those, what pots and pans you're getting, dishes, again, back to what I said before, like even if you're buying a mattress, your pillows, your bedding. So that's really a key time when you're kind of accumulating all those things. And if you want to start and put together a healthy home, since you're getting gifts or you're purchasing those things anyway, and then the same thing with the baby, you would love the gifts that you get for your baby to be healthy and good for them. And so I want to work with people to help put together, healthy registries and healthy homes. And
that's brilliant.
Healthy baby products.
That is so brilliant. I love that idea. Okay, so why should I be worried about my makeup, my lipstick?
So, well, there's so many reasons. Because you're eating it because you're putting it on your lips. A lot of lipsticks have lead in them. So you're swallowing that. I mean, there's been some kind of publicized crazy reports out there, but I think the reality is that you swallow on average about 2.5 pounds of lipstick a year.
Wow.
So if you think about that, you don't want those artificial colors. The other thing is fragrances, and I could talk forever about that, how bad all those endocrine disrupting chemicals that are in them for you, phthalates, which are airborne, which, they travel in the water systems. I mean, all these different things, you want fragrances to be from essential oils and not artificial fragrances where it says parfum or fragrance on it. There's no real requirements to what's in that. There's just literally thousands of untested chemicals that can be in fragrances. And then not only are those tested, but then you don't know how they interact with each other. So I just think it's really important to remove that, especially something that's going on your mouth. Or what if you're kissing your baby or your kids? So, you want to make sure that there's really, really good, so many different brands of natural makeup products that really do work very well. And I think what's going on your lips is important, but it's obviously being absorbed through your skin. What's going on around your eyes or in your eyes is very important too, because it's just like directly access to your bloodstream. So
now I will say this with, instead of using chapstick, I do use cocoa butter, like the sticks. I do use the essential oils in place of perfumes because for one, I'm very sensitive to smells, and I find that perfumes are really, really strong, and the essential oils are not. They're a little more subtle. So I did find some of those at Whole Foods that I do use. And I'm very sensitive. There's a lady actually in our office that makes her own soap for the same reason, because she's so sensitive to smells. So I try to make small changes. I'm not quite at your level, but I'm still working on it. I actually bought along some things that I use, because I'm really big into, I hear so much about deodorant, and I'm very concerned about deodorant. So do you suggest using the aluminum-free deodorant?
So here's what this always is a big issue, and here's what I have to say about that. So the actual deodorant and the way that aluminum works is that the aluminum salts get broken down and dissolved by water, and they settle in your pores. And so they basically are blocking the pores under your arms, which that's why it's an antiperspirant. It keeps you from perspiring. There's also toxins can't be released, and it's not healthy. And the aluminum then is also absorbed into your body. And then think about if you're shaving, even you nick your skin, then you're putting on an aluminum deodorant. So there's many things with that. Then the deodorant side of it can have all the artificial fragrances, as we just said. So I do have some really good, and one in particular, different brands of deodorant that are all organic and really natural ingredients. Like you could probably almost eat it, but you wouldn't want to. But it really works. That's the thing. And like my parents, I always tell people, my parents live in Florida and they play tennis in this insane heat. And I even have like my husband using it and my dad using it. But again, back to balance, because that being said, there's always going to probably be a time when you have a huge meeting and you're really nervous, or it's 95 degrees out and you're going outside to some event. And so what I say is have the most natural, as far as the other ingredients and the fragrances go, but if it has aluminum in it, and if you use that, when you need to, and all the rest of the time or all winter long, you're using the aluminum-free, really healthy deodorant, then it's a good balance. I mean, in a perfect world, it would be great to never use the aluminum, but people have to live their lives. And so, I just think if you balance it out in the reality, that's the best.
I find that I've had to try different natural ones because some are better than others. Like the one that I use that is the best is Schmidt's. And I get this from Target. And it's aluminum free and no artificial fragrance and propylene glycol, none of that. And I use this one. But I can definitely use that one in the summer. Now in the winter, I can use something I found on Amazon because a lot of stores don't really, unless I go to a specialty store, don't have something for me. But I can use something called La Vanilla. I don't know if you've heard of that one. That one's a little bit lighter. I love the smell. It's like a essential oil. It has vanilla in it. So I know that I can use that in the summer. But this one I definitely have to use in the winter because it's a little stronger. But I do what you just said. Sometimes when I know I'm going to have, like, say, an interview or a big day where I might perspire, I'll use the regular Dove's, deodorant or something like that. Yeah. So it's good to hear that I don't have to be 100%, natural all the time.
That's right. And that you brought up a point that made me think too, because I've had a client where they bought a natural brand of deodorant and they were showing me, well, I already have a natural deodorant, but it was still 22% aluminum.
Oh, wow.
So, the point is, again, reading that label to know what you're really buying.
So what are 3 products that I need to run home and get rid of? 3 common products.
Yeah, so that's a tough one because there's so many. But I would say, well, you really touched on one that I was thinking about is very important is deodorant. I mean, that really is very, very important. I would say that also it's really important to look at your cookware.
Okay.
If you have nonstick pans, and I do a large part of my report is on cookware and all the different types and what they're made of and how they affect us and which ones are really safe, because there's a lot of these, the Teflon of old, which has been replaced by a lot of these ceramic nonstick cookware that we can buy out there, and they say non-toxic or they say safe, but when they're tested, they're not. There's lead in the coloring, in the glazes outside of colored cookware. There's so many factors about that, and if you're using your pans and you're buying really healthy quality food or organic food, but then you're cooking it in something that's leaching chemicals into what you're cooking, you're doing a big disservice. So I think cookware and how you're preparing your foods, also how you're storing your foods, getting rid of plastics is so important. And again, it's really that kind of leads into how are you washing and cleaning your produce that you're buying, and how are you storing these things? Because if you're spending the money and you're taking the time to buy really healthy, good quality foods, but then how are you preparing it and how are you storing it and cleaning it and bringing other chemicals back into the mix? So that's kind of looking at that whole picture thing again. I would also say plastic water bottles are really, really important too, especially for kids, for adults, for the environment. I mean, there's just so many implications of the plastic water bottles and what's leaching out of the plastic. And then the quality of whatever you're buying that's in that, even of the water itself or if it's some other kind of beverage.
We do have a filtration system. We actually lived in Florida for a little bit, and when we moved there, I had a hard time drinking the water. And I thought, I can taste my water. There's something wrong. So we actually got a Culligan system And we weren't there long, so we actually brought it back with us to Atlanta. So I do see the difference in my water quality just using a filtration system.
Yeah. So that's huge. I actually lived in Florida too, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And I did not drink the tap water. But yeah, that's really important. And I have a whole water filtration section that I do because there's also different levels of what the water filters are filtering and what they're filtering out. And you may think that you're filtering something and you're not, or there's just certain carbon filters that you're putting on your faucet, and you have shower filtration because there's fluoride and tons of chemicals in the water. You're in the shower, your pores are opening up, and then you're absorbing, those things. So you can also filter water pitchers through those pitchers, or like I send my kids off to school with, I'm not going to name brands, but there's very different levels of filtration that you can get within the water pitchers.
This is what I do at home, and you can say yay or nay on this. I try not to buy paper towels that have prints on them. I try to do plain. Good thing.
So that's a better.
Okay.
Because again, all these colorings and dyes have chemicals in them, but then the paper towels are bleached.
Oh.
So you can get unbleached paper towels.
Okay.
What I've actually tried to do is I try to save money and save waste by getting organic dish towels.
Okay.
And I will use those and cut down. I do use paper towels still, but I cut down on what I use by trying to incorporate using dish towels once you get used to that. And if you have enough so that you can wash them and always have them available, that's just another step.
So that would be best.
That would be best.
Okay. All right. So I already mentioned that I use cocoa butter as chapstick. Sometimes coconut oil too. But I actually use, this was my husband's idea, I actually use coconut oil as a moisturizer for my entire body. I heard that it didn't clog your pores, so I do use that. And then on drier areas like my elbows and my knees, sometimes I even use olive oil. Good.
Yes, very good.
Perfect.
As long as you know the quality of what, it's a good quality coconut oil and a good quality olive oil, especially in olive oil. And I do a whole section on the fats, the healthy fats, but also a lot of olive oil that's out there. You may have read things about this where it's nothing more than food coloring and inferior oils that they pass off. So if you know that you have a really good quality organic oil, putting it on your body and absorbing it into your bloodstream is good.
Okay, good. So I don't use air fresheners, one, because I'm very sensitive to smell. So instead, I do use the aromatherapy
essential
with
oils.
The essential oils. I use that. Good.
So it can be good, but it can be bad. And this is again that all these levels. Let's dig down. So it could be great. Essential oils have a lot of health benefits. I use them. I believe in them. But again, what's the quality of those essential oils? Because they need to be therapeutic grade, but then they need to be organic. Because all those pesticides that whatever that plant was sprayed with, also the way that the oils are extracted from the plant, they can be extracted with hexane and harsh chemicals. So when you're getting organic, you're getting rid of the pesticides. You're also they cannot use those chemical extraction methods. But then you can take it one step deeper because now you've spent all this money and you were so careful about the oil you bought and the quality of it, but what are you putting it in? So you're putting it in almost always, even if you go look for a glass diffuser on the outside, it's going to be a plastic part on the inside.
It is plastic.
So, and three things about that. Essential oils are very strong, as you know, and so certain ones are even corrosive. And you're putting water in that compartment. So you're heating the essential oils. So that's taking away some of the health benefits there. Then you probably, unless you're perfect and you clean your diffuser out every single time you use it, you probably have water sitting in the diffuser. So molds and things are created. And then the plastic actually over time is getting eaten away by the essential oils. And so you're diffusing this water, which could have some molds in it, which could have plastics in it, into the air, and you're inhaling it. So there's things called nebulizing diffusers, which use glass. And so they also don't use heat. So you're retaining the quality of the oil. They put like nanoparticles into the air very quickly, so you only have to run them for a minute or two.
Okay.
And you use the oil pure without water, so there's no water, there's no heat, and then there's no plastic. So that's just where one thing isn't just a yes or no or an easy answer. I try to think about the whole way from the start to the finish of how we're using something and how can we make it healthier.
I do know my oils are organic and they come in the dark bottles. My nebulizer, it doesn't heat it up. It's like a vapor that comes up, but it is plastic. So I need to
that's
look
the
into that.
the regular diffuser. Yeah.
And I do try to empty out the water because I find that if I come back to it, let's say a day later, it smells weird.
Yeah.
So I do try to replace the water and clean it out.
But I mean, not everybody, again, it's again about balance, and not everybody's going to go out and buy a different diffuser or get that kind of a diffuser, or maybe it's not in their budget. And so just starting with at least getting the good quality essential oil is really important.
Okay, that sounds good. Now, I think I know the answer to this one because you spoke on this. I did switch over to steel pots and pans.
Stainless steel.
Yeah, stainless steel. I do have one copper pan because my daughter likes to make eggs, and usually when you have stainless steel, and you're learning to cook, you may burn it. So most of I would say 90% of our pots and pans are stainless steel. And the reason why I did that was because I noticed with the stainless, what is it, the Teflon or the ones that are nonstick, I could see over time where they would start to crumble.
Yes.
And then once I was making something, I actually saw bits and pieces of it in the actual food. And I thought, okay, this has to stop. This is not good.
Yes.
So I switched them out.
So I actually think kind of a combination of cookware is the optimum situation. And stainless steel is better than other options, certainly than, Teflon or nonstick options, but there still are chemicals. What's in that stainless steel, there's many different ratings of stainless steel and components of stainless steel, and there's things that can leach into the food. So if you're just using it, like let's say to make eggs or something like that, but if you're putting an acidic food in there, and or if it's sitting in there for a long time, then acidic foods can leach some of those chemicals. But it's still a pretty stable, healthier version. There are what I suggest too is there's some new nonstick, and you really have to. These have been analyzed and tested because, as I said before, even though they say healthy or non-toxic or PFOA, PFOE free, does not mean that there aren't other toxic chemicals in there. But I do know of certain brands that are very nonstick, and where the stainless steel can really get tricky with cooking certain things and being able to get it out of there. But they're inexpensive as well. And so to your point, I don't think that you should really buy expensive cookware when it's nonstick, when you can get something reasonably priced, because over time, when you do see that coating scratch, and they all will unless you're absolutely perfect about how you clean it and how you stir things, when you do see that nick, you do want to replace the pan at that point, because now there is no more barrier between and a lot of times it's aluminum in the pan underneath.
So toilet cleaners, I noticed that lately, I don't know if it's just using them over time, I noticed that I'm more sensitive to the smells, and then it makes me lightheaded. Would you suggest for, say, toilet cleaner to use the ones that have no bleach, but instead has like peroxide as the cleaner?
So you can definitely do that. And again, there's so many different levels that I could recommend to you that I do to my clients. So it depends what you want to do. If you want to be able to go buy your product at Publix, or you want to go buy it at Whole Foods, then there's going to be a good, better, best within levels that you can do that. If you're willing to buy things online, then there's some really great small companies who make natural, safe cleaning products, or you could make your own at home as well. And I have recipes for those types of products. And yes, they can incorporate, peroxide or baking soda, Castile soap. There's, different, you could make a scrub for that. So there are many different options that you can do, but the bleach and the fragrances and the things being toxic.
Yeah.
I mean, you can sometimes, even when you get mold or in a shower or bacteria buildup, you can use things such as like a tea tree essential oil in a spray, and that will, help get rid of that.
I use that on my hair sometimes. Yeah. Okay. I think with the cleaning products, I see that they have them like DIY products online that you can make yourself. And it's usually lemon, baking soda, vinegar, the usual suspects. But growing up, I find that in my with my family, if it doesn't have bleach in it, it's not clean. Which one particular story stands out for me. My husband and I were just married, and we decided to go to visit his brother in Texas. And he made a meal for us, and I decided that I would volunteer to, do the dishes afterwards. Well, I ran dish soap and water and put the dishes in, and he came behind me, my brother-in-law, and he poured like maybe a cup of bleach in the dishwater and said they're not clean unless it's bleached. Is that a myth?
Well, it's gonna kill everything, and
including my skin.
Yeah, but the thing is that necessary, and is that healthy? Because I don't know if you've heard of like the microbiome. So you have it in your gut, you have it on your body, you have it in your environment, and there's good bacteria, and we need good bacteria. When you kill everything off, that's you're not. You know how kids will get. If you keep your kid too perfect and clean, they get sick and they pick everything else up because, we acclimate to certain bacteria. And then like in a probiotic and things like that, there's good bacteria that are good for us. So I don't really think, I do know some cleaning products that are clean very well, but they actually preserve the healthy bacteria, the microbiome in your home, and things like vinegar are a good option for that. It's like anything else. I mean, is anything going to completely clean and disinfect and whiten something as if you poured bleach on it? Probably not. But is that necessary? Even like hand sanitizers and antibacterial soaps and things like that. They're not only are the chemicals in them very unhealthy for us and absorbed into our body, but it's not good to kill everything off.
Okay.
In my opinion, anyway.
So I have 3 goals. I'm going to replace my disinfectant wipes because I noticed this week when I thought about you coming to the show. So I look at everything differently now. Going to your website, I look at everything differently. Open the cabinet doors and I said, oh, what would Karen say if she saw this? I want to replace disinfectant wipes because we use them a lot every day and my kids use them. So I need to come up with an alternative that will still get the cabinets or the countertops clean. That, and I do want to replace my laundry detergent because we wear our clothes every day, so the detergent is probably still in my top. So I do want to do that. And then lastly, I want to get involved and maybe get my kids involved in making homemade cleansers. I think it would probably be fun for them, but I don't know as far as time-wise if it is something that I could do. So maybe I do it part-time and then buy better products that have the natural cleansers in them because I think it would be difficult to make everything homemade.
Absolutely. And that's exactly as you described is what I do myself. So the thing that I make, some of the things I make homemade is I make my own Veggie Wash because again, going back to that, going on to the produce that I picked out and spent money on. So I want to make sure that I'm cleaning. And that's basically, I use an organic lemon essential oil, of vinegar and water. When I do a veggie bath, which is on actually that recipe is on my website, but I will put baking soda in there and it literally bubbles up and you can see the produce moving around. But in the bottle, I don't put the baking soda in because it tends to clog up the sprayer. And that then that leads itself to a whole nother thing. So for that Veggie Wash, I buy glass bottle, and you can't help the fact that the sprayer is plastic. And the point being is now you have lemon, a corrosive, in this, and you have a glass bottle, and you went out of your way to do all of this, but that plastic straw is sitting in that all the time, being corroded. And again, a reason to use essential lemon oil and not a natural lemon is because unless you're going to make that fresh every single time,
right,
which you're not, it's going to be sitting there. So that's why you want to use an essential oil instead of like actual lemon juice. But so you can, usually those bottles will come with a cap. And so a little trick that I do is I'll just make the Veggie Wash in the glass bottle, put the cap on the bottle, and put the sprayer under my sink. And just when I'm about to use it, I'll put my sprayer in, use it, take it back out. And so that way I don't have plastic sitting in
that's awesome.
Everything that I went to the trouble of doing. And so that's something that's homemade. But there's some great products. And even in you mentioning the wipes, I can think of, 4 or 5 brands in that good, better, best, where ones that you would think are better, that they're names that you see out there, and they're maybe not. But then there's some really, really good, even vinegar-based ones.
Okay.
And you could take it to crazy levels, and you can, then say, well, what's the wipe itself made out of?
Oh,
and so is that plastics or polypropylenes in those? And they have organic fabrics, organic cotton, wipes with then healthy things on it. You can make your own too.
Okay.
So, yeah, and they put preservatives in there because it's something wet. So what would a wet thing would mold? So there's, what are they preserving it with?
So what are your thoughts, getting onto the diet part? What are your thoughts on juice cleanses?
So I think that everything in moderation.
Okay.
And I think that I can't give an across-the-board answer on that because everybody's living a different life. Everybody's at a different phase in their health. And what a juice cleanse is going to do, if you stick to it and you do it, is it's going to detox. It's going to start your body detoxing. But that detox process could happen too fast. It could be too intense. You can get really sick. I mean, if you're somebody who's already really, really healthy and you go on a juice cleanse for a short period of time, you're probably going to be fine. But if you're eating in McDonald's every single day and you have a New Year's resolution and now you just are switching over to a green juice cleanse, your body is going to go into shock. It's going to start detoxing all those toxins really fast. And that is the Herxheimer's reaction. It makes you sick.
Wow.
So that die off. So I think that it just depends on the person. I don't really think that you need to go to the extreme. I think that you can incorporate juice as a healthy part of eating, but I also think that there's benefits to eating the whole fruits and vegetables. So there's nutrients and fiber and so many different things in the in the fiber and the pulps and the skins of different things, that when you're juicing everything and you're breaking it all down, the good part is that the nutrients are broken down and going right into your bloodstream. The scary part about that is what's the quality of what went into that juice. So if you're buying your juice somewhere, was that produce organic? And in the least case, did they follow the environmental working groups, Clean 15, Dirty Dozen? Because otherwise you're concentrating pesticides and then you've broken it down and it's going straight into your bloodstream.
Wow.
Also, you could buy a really expensive all organic juice and then it's sitting in a plastic bottle in the case there. And then it's how did they juice it? Because there's masticating juicers and there's other kinds of juicers that will preserve the nutrients, some up to 72 hours, some for only 24 hours you need to. So again, you could be drinking that and going through all that and then you're not getting the nutrients out of it. So again, not a simple answer. I mean, a best case scenario is you have your own juicer at home and you could buy your own produce and make it yourself. Or if you have a juice place that you trust the quality of their juice, then just bring your own mason jar or glass bottle in and have them juice it for you and put it in that. But at least if you're going to drink it in the plastic and everything, I really think it's important that it's an organic juice if you're going to drink a juice.
Now, I'm really cheap, so I usually end up juicing it myself. I do find that I have a juicer and I also have a NutriBullet. And I do find when I use the juicer and I have a juice for, say, breakfast, I'm not as full as if I use the NutriBullet, which keeps the fiber.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And another thing I didn't mention there, but there's a whole thing about sugar too, because the healthy juice is going to be no fruit, because the fruit is just sugar. And that's, again, going straight into your bloodstream, and that's going to spike your blood sugars. And most people really don't or would not like the taste of a pure green vegetable juice, but that's the healthy type of juice to drink. And so even if you're going to put a fruit in a juice, they say like it's a green Granny Smith apple because that's the lower sugar. It's tart. And then they're talking about a slice of apple that you really, so if a juice tastes, if you go to a juice place and you're like, oh, this juice is great, it's delicious, it is not going to be healthy for you because it's going to be all sugar. And then when people juice just fruit, that's really,
that'll spike your blood sugar.
So.
Yeah, it's definitely an acquired taste, but I try to add lemon, at least add lemon to it to change
Very
the flavor
good.
up
And
a little bit.
ginger or other things that give it flavor. Yeah.
So that brings me to something I want to know with sugar. Which is better, the regular raw sugar, I think they call it turbinado sugar, or stevia?
So, well, it depends what you're talking about doing with it and how much of it are you thinking of consuming.
I would say 2 teaspoons in my coffee.
Of regular sugar.
So, or 2 packets of stevia versus 2 teaspoons of the raw sugar.
So, sugar. And the better types of sweeteners are going to be like an unfiltered raw honey, maybe even a pure maple syrup. Coconut sugar is a good substitute for sugar.
I haven't tried that one.
Yeah, I don't, putting coconut sugar in your coffee, I don't know how that is. I've used it in baking. It does have a different flavor and it works, in baking. But the thing about stevia, and I do use that myself in my coffee, I buy, I really like Trader Joe's has 100% organic stevia.
Okay.
And it's a tiny little scoop. And that's how much you're putting in there. But the thing is it's nothing other than 100% pure organic stevia powder, because many of the different packets and things that you buy are not just stevia. They have other additives and they have other sweeteners in them, and you don't realize that. But the thing to think about with stevia is it's a plant, it's a green leaf. So it didn't end up naturally as a white powder in a bottle.
True.
So they did process it somehow. However, I think that if you just have a small amount of it, or as I say, I don't bake with it and I don't use cups of it. I actually find it to have somewhat of I don't like it in foods. It has an artificial taste to me, even though it's a natural thing. But in coffee, I use it myself, as long as, again, the one you're getting is good quality.
I did notice that the one that I had been using had dextrose in it. So they added that to it.
So if you can find and that's kind of holds true with all the different foods, is try and find things that just have one ingredient or minimal ingredients. So
okay. So what's your most popular makeover? Your detox makeover, which one is?
So everybody ends up with the nutrition makeover because people think of food first. But then when they start to do that, or they already think that they're eating healthy, and then once we sit down and talk, usually they realize that, there's many things they hadn't thought of. And I find that, or they think they're just going to do the nutrition makeover, and then they end up doing others or doing the whole thing because they didn't realize how it's the big picture, as I said, and all these other things. But people think of food first when they think of health, and I always think that's pretty much the starting point.
So what's on the horizon for Go Healthy with Karen?
Oh my gosh, so many things.
I see a book. I would buy it.
People say that, and I've looked into that. I need free time, but I do have a lot to say. But I filmed my makeover course for Gen Connect U. Okay. So that's a website of all different classes that people can take, and that kind of gives a touch overview of the course. Been working with various doctors and collaborating and partnering up with area doctors and hospitals to get my programs out to people, and that's very exciting because it's not just holistic or naturopathic doctors. I've actually got MDs and, endocrinologists and doctors realizing that, yes, this is important, that these chemicals are affecting the health of their patients, and they want to help pass this information on to them. So that's really exciting to me.
And I love that baby registry idea too.
Yes.
That's
and then
awesome.
So then this is also I'm also really going to be expanding that whole side of my business too.
That's exciting. So where can our audience find you?
So you can reach me through my website, which is www.gohealthywithkaren.com. You can email me at karen@gohealthywithkaren.com, or get my contact information on my website. I have an Instagram as well, Go Healthy with Karen. And I have offices here in Avalon where I see people in person for consultations, but I can also work anywhere by video chat.
Okay.
So,
wow, that's awesome. So thank you, Karen Stein, for being a
Thank
guest
you.
on Raising Mommy. I've learned so much just in an hour.
oh, that's great. It was fun to be here. Thank you for having me.
Be sure to find Raising Mommy anywhere you listen to podcasts. Check out our new episodes every Saturday. Follow us on Twitter at RaisingMommyGA. Search for me on Facebook and Instagram at eatplantsforlife.com or Raising Mommy Podcast. Don't forget to email me at raisingmommy@appenmediagroup.com to share the random, fun, and sweet things your kids say, text, or do for our Off the Cuff Kids segment. If your comment is chosen for a future show, you'll win a gift card. Remember, first names only, and please include the age or grade of your child. If you have a screenshot of the text or note or a photo of the deed, please also include it with your submission. Thanks for listening.